All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in this world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayers Live, page by page reading and commentary of the modern English version of the Bible. So today we're going to go into the first book of Samuel, chapter 31, which is the final chapter of the first book of Samuel. I didn't even realize it until sitting down here to do this reading today. Now, this chapter is a little bit depressing, but very telling too. It revolves again around Saul, who is the king of Israel at this time, who has been mercilessly stalking David, meaning the David who killed Goliath of the Philistines. David of Israel has been Saul's servant. He has, opted to abide by the law of the God that they both at least should believe in. I have a feeling David believes in God more than Saul does. But because of David's belief, he refuses to kill Saul, even though Saul has repeatedly attempted to assassinate or murder him. And at various times throughout the book of Samuel, it seems that Saul, really starting from chapter 19, did kind of realize that what he was up to was wrong and that he wasn't thinking from a rational state of mind. But for some reason, he keeps defaulting into wanting to murder David. Um, I kind of feel like the story of Sal revolves around a situation biblically of mental illness, truthfully. That's what I think. I am not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, so I really don't know. I don't think anyone would ever be able to know because how in the world would you diagnose medically someone who's no longer alive? But just considering the rapid mood swings and thoughts of extremism within Sal's mind, despite logic, despite people around him being like, no, don't kill David, even his own son, Jonathan. I think that Sal did suffer from a level of mental illness. And being that in this chapter that we're about to read, he takes his own life. Yeah, I think that Sal had a lot of problems. I definitely do. So let's go ahead and read this. Now, the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and Israel's fighting men fled before the Philistines, and they fell slain on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, Saul's sons. So Jonathan, the son who basically protected David and tried to talk sense into his father Saul, Jonathan was killed along with his brothers. That's sad. The battle was heavy against Saul. The archers found him, and he was severely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor bearer, draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through and abuse me. So Sal was hurt at this moment, and he looked at his assistant and he basically said, look, these guys are going to come and get me anyway, so just go ahead and do me in. Hey, Gotti, how are you doing? I'm doing good. Thanks for coming in here, and thanks for keeping up with me. It helps to keep me sane. I hope you're doing really well. I'm doing okay over here. Had some time today, so I figured, you know what? Let's go ahead and do another Bible reading. I try to do these when I'm in a good mood. But his armor bearer would not, for he was very afraid. Therefore, Saul took his sword and fell upon it. When his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died with him. So Saul died with his 3 sons and his armor bearer together. with all his men on that same day. Yeah, I think that I think he embodied a lot of guilt due to how he treated David. I think he definitely would have embodied a tremendous amount of guilt when it came to his son Jonathan, because Jonathan was so loyal to David. And, Saul being the king, witnessing all three of his sons, but Jonathan probably was his favorite, seeing his eldest son die while they were in an argument over David. And there was no reason really for Saul to dislike David aside from jealousy. Saul lost it at that moment. And he was just like, I can't do this anymore. No more. I'm done. Goodbye, cruel world. So that's what happened. When Israel's fighting men who were on the other side of the valley and those who were on the other side of the Jordan saw that Israel's fighting men fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and fled. So the Philistines came and lived in them. So the Philistines right away were there to occupy the cities because they're still upset about the Goliath incident. The following day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head, stripped off his armor, and sent them into the land of the Philistines round about, to make it known in the house of their idols and among their people. So they wanted everyone to see that Saul was definitely dead. They put his armor in the house of Ashtoreth, and they fastened his body to the wall of Bethshan. When the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and went all night. They took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan, and they came to Jabesh and burned them there. Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Jabesh and fasted for 7 days. All right. So that's the end of the first book of Samuel. Tomorrow, we will go into the second book of Samuel, which talks about David mourning for Saul. Wow. Well, I'm excited to read that. Oh, and it looks like there's a little bit of a song in here also. So that will give me a chance to make a new AI biblical song to go along with the reading. Yay. Maybe I'll do that later tonight. That way I'll have it ready for tomorrow. I could do that. But yeah, so even though Saul was trying to kill David throughout his life, David still mourns for Saul. That's what we'll read about tomorrow. And sometimes I'll tell you, sometimes our greatest teachers are our greatest enemies. And sometimes when our enemies fall or die, whatever, you look back at that enemy and you say to yourself, well, they did teach me some lessons, and you really don't harbor hate in your heart toward that person or entity, whatever your enemy may be. But the Bible has taught me a lot about forgiveness. It's taught me a lot about understanding enemies, why people do what they do. I guess human nature. And despite it all, how if you're a solid person, you just kind of gotta take the hits, but not let the hits turn you so much into whatever it is that you've grown to hate, because it's easy for that to happen. Sometimes you can fight certain fights or battles, or just for your own survival, you'll fight so hard sometimes that you become so good at eliminating whoever your enemies are that you start to take upon the traits of your enemies. to where you become worse than they are. That can happen. So you got to check yourself from time to time if you're fortunate, and most likely, if you do believe in God, then you're going to go through various spiritual awakenings in your lifetime. At least I hope you do. I think I've gone through about 2 solid spiritual awakenings within my life so far. And I'm glad that I have. But then again, I'm very receptive to energies of change. Whereas I understand why some people aren't, because change is rough. Sometimes change can be to your benefit. Other times it might make you think you have to start all over again. But if you're blessed enough to be able to start over again multiple times in your life, then I think you're more fortunate than many, because it's almost like you get to live multiple lives within one lifetime. And every time you start over, you do tend to get better and better at it. Absolutely, you do. So that's it for today. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Thanks for listening. And we're going to continue on our biblical journey, along with continuing on our individual life journeys. Bye-bye.